Welcome back. As we've heard, some patients who need emergency health care might be afraid to seek it in light of the pandemic. But hospital emergency departments are taking special precautions to make sure to keep patients safe. Here to talk more about that is Dr. Jeremy Voros, an ER physician at St. Mark's Hospital. Dr. Voros, great to have you with us. We already discussed a little bit about the emergent health care needs with Dr. Agon T, but for you, are you as concerned as he is that patients with emergent needs are just waiting to come into the hospital, or even worse, not even coming in at all?
Yeah, absolutely, Glenn, we are. Dr. Agon T is one of our expert cardiologists at the hospital. We have the same concern among our general surgeons about patients with appendicitis or bowel obstructions. Our neurologists are wondering what has happened to the volume of stroke patients that we usually see in the emergency department. So absolutely, anecdotally, I mean, it's a little early to have hard numbers, but anecdotally, yeah, we all seem to feel like there's been a drop in those emergency type conditions that we're used to seeing on a daily basis.
And I'll pose the same question to you as I did to him. Obviously, it's very unlikely that those things are still happening, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think that staying home has suddenly decreased patients' heart attack risk or stroke risk that much. So yeah, absolutely, we're still very concerned about that.
Okay. As St. Mark's is now moving forward with scheduled procedures, what precautions are you taking in your department to ensure patients are safe?
That's a wonderful question. It's not as inviting as it used to be. I mean, we have the disaster tent that the state provided out in front of our hospital. We're doing screening of patients as they come through. They get asked a few questions about respiratory symptoms. They get their temperature taken. They get a mask put on them. So every patient coming into our department is wearing a mask for their safety as well as the safety of the people and other patients around them. In the department, we're segregating patients based on their symptoms. So if a patient seems like they may have a respiratory illness or other symptoms that suggest a COVID infection, they're going to a designated treatment area in the department. Patients with routine complaints, musculoskeletal injuries, twisted ankles, chest pain, abdominal pain, they're going to the usual treatment spaces in the emergency department.
Some of that, what you talked about, obviously in response to the pandemic, but how do those protocols that you just mentioned compare to before the pandemic versus what you're doing now?
It's a pretty significant difference. I mean, before in the emergency department, we'd allow patients in with 2 or 3 or even 4 visitors, family members who'd accompany them in. Currently now, we're allowing only 1 or even no visitors in certain circumstances. So the department is a lot more quiet and a lot more calm in a way that it wasn't before, but in a slightly uneasy way because of those changes. Mm-hmm. So that's a big change. The pre-screening is a big change. The segregated areas in the department obviously is a big change in our typical workflow. But it's slowly becoming the new normal.
Yeah, let's build on that a little more, the new normal, because we're starting to experience that in all aspects of life. But what else should someone know before coming to the hospital? You've already talked about limiting guests, but what about masks? We're all wearing masks now. Does someone need to come into the hospital wearing a mask? And what other things that are associated with the new norm do we need to know about coming to the hospital?
Yeah, I mean, you can see that I've got my mask on. I would encourage people to be wearing a mask anytime they're out in public and visiting any kind of public place in general. So, yeah, absolutely. If you're going to go to the hospital, I would recommend that you wear a mask. That should not be an obstacle to seeking medical care. Obviously, we have masks to provide patients when they arrive if they don't have one of their own. So, yeah, I mean, that's a big difference.
Yeah, so we're used to seeing you, the doctor, wear the mask, right? Now we need to get used to seeing the patient wearing that as well. Anything else that you would want patients to know that I didn't touch base on?
No, I just really appreciate you bringing light to this. We're working very hard at the hospital to make sure things remain safe for patients so they're not obstacles to them seeking care for other conditions. We don't want people to delay that, so I want them to know that we're working hard for their protection. And I mean, quite honestly, our protection as well. We want to work in a safe environment and limit our risk of exposure to the disease as well. And I think that this is probably going to be the situation for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that point up, that you are putting your life on the line to help out in any way you can in this situation, you and your colleagues. and we really appreciate the work that you're doing in that arena.
Thanks, Glenn.
Real quick before we let you go, what's the best way to learn more about St. Mark's?
Go to the hospital, stmarkshospital.com.
Okay, and then we have that information and even the phone number for you right there. Appreciate your time. Thanks so much for joining us.